Welcome back. This is episode 10 with Gaming at the Round Table. I'm Crystal and
Order
Maverick
not
and JoJo.
guaranteed.
Eh, it's going to change every time, I swear.
Yeah.
So, starting us off, I'd like to talk about taking clips on the different consoles, like PlayStation versus Xbox versus Switch. Obviously, computer is superior. We won't talk about that. But what do you guys think
I
of
think we should
the
start with
difference
computer
between them?
because it's the easiest, right? You download OBS, problem
It's
solved,
superior.
and that's pretty much it.
Hmm.
It depends
Well,
because if you're using a system, then you have to get a capture card and then three other extra steps.
Right, like
yeah, but for
Steam
the
games
computer
and
Yeah, straight
specifically,
up. Yeah.
you got to make sure your audio and everything is set up correctly. And then, God forbid, there's an update and suddenly you
uh,
have to change all your settings again. So it's kind of a pain in the butt, but also significantly easier than all the other systems as far as
yeah, for
taking
sure. In
long
fact, you bring up a good
Yeah.
content.
point where on the computer it's the easiest to do, but it's also got the most points of failure. So that is a good point. Like if you have
Mm-hmm.
multiple mics set up, multiple cameras set up, you forget to select this desktop instead of the windowed screen, or you select the wrong windowed screen. So yeah, definitely easiest to screw up, but also the fastest to set up and the
Mm-hmm.
cheapest. OBS is free. Just go. All right. So
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't personally ever used the Switch, but I can say because I primarily use the Xbox, it used to be a lot better. The biggest drawback being the amount of time you can record, which I've always thought was very weird, is that you can't record more than a minute clip. Whereas I know even on a PlayStation 4, you could get 15-minute clips. But on the Xbox, you
Mm-hmm.
cannot get more. No, I think the highest you can get if you lower the video quality is 3 minutes.
now this is okay. First of all, that sounds really low, but this is all at a pop, right? It's
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
to your under to you. Ugh. All right, let's try again. To your knowledge, there's no cap on total other than the hard drive space on your Xbox, right? So you could
Yeah.
just every 3 minutes press record.
Which once you hit the most amount of videos I think I've ever had at one point when I went back and had to clear some out was upwards of 100 and 120-minute long clips. So, I mean, you can get a considerable amount of
So you
content.
watched a movie and every minute pressed record. Oh my god.
I mean, while you're playing a game, it just depends on what you're trying to get. Now, if you're a content creator, it kind of helps in a way because they used to have it very fluid in the sense of I could record it on my Xbox, pull it up on my phone, download it on my phone, edit it on my phone, and then upload it from there. Then they had a portion of it where you could download it directly to your
Mm.
computer because the Xbox app was cross platform, which was very helpful because, again, you could just go onto the computer, download what you needed, and it was the same
Yeah.
quality. It was just a shorter step of it. And recently, and I would say the last 2 to 3 months, they got rid of that feature.
Oh, super recently.
Yeah, it's within I would say at most the last 5 to 6 months.
We should look into that because I feel like they have to have
Wow.
had some sort of announcement, at least explaining why. Because obviously, a lot of people are content creators these days. I mean, we are, and we're basically just doing it as like extra exposure and not as a primary source of income. I can't imagine what kind of ripple that would have had amongst primarily, because there are Xbox exclusive streamers, right? Having to press record every 2 seconds, not great.
That seems so wild to me because the PS5, if you take a 2 minute clip, it'll
Mm-hmm.
go to your phone. And I can save it from my phone. It's going to be high quality, all that stuff. But then also, I could take a hour long clip of my gameplay and save it to my PlayStation and have no issues. It the time seems so short for
And it's
Xbox.
weird considering the cross functionality in the fact that you can stream on multiple platforms and even use Discord at the same time and stream straight to your Twitch or anything like
Yeah.
that. and get the content directly to these sites. But again, when it comes to personal download, you can't do it. So if I'm streaming and I try to take a clip at the same time, it'll block me.
Do you think that maybe in a weird way they're trying to push people more into streaming as opposed to recording content? I know that seems strange, but like what would be the motivation? Maybe cost cutting for them?
I mean, it would if I was Microsoft or Xbox as a whole, it would seem kind of counterintuitive because you want people to use your
Right.
systems. You want people to do everything in house is the best way to put it. So to say, "Oh, I want you to outsource it" is kind of
Yeah.
weird.
Agreed.
Yeah.
So Xbox, we've got you set up to 3 minutes.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
correct.
So I know PlayStation 5 goes, you've got like 15 seconds, 30 seconds, a minute, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, I think 10 minutes and 30, 15 and 30.
15
So
minutes
you've got
and
not
30, I
only
think.
like, oh, really?
Well,
I,
in an hour. When you hit
I've never
full
bothered to
video,
do it.
it's an
It's like, I
hour.
don't need an hour. So not only do we
Yeah.
have on the PlayStation a longer duration to record, you have so many options in between. And something else I found helpful, and
Mm-hmm.
I hope it works this way on all the other ones, is that if you hit, say, 15-second recording and go, oh, I need a bit longer, you can just
Mm.
immediately record like 3 minutes or 5 minutes instead. I'm struggling today, sorry. And it will just re-record without any interruption. So it's
Xbox, you have
Mm-hmm.
to literally pick it. If you don't, it won't do it.
gross.
If you pick 30 seconds to a minute, it's either recording one or the other. It's not gonna let you say, "Oh, hey, we'll go back and record everything you just did."
That is wild. I mean, I've never
That's
really liked Xbox.
wild.
That's not true. I liked Xbox in the OG Halo days, but I haven't liked Xbox as a platform for the last decade
Yeah.
at least. So hearing this, on one half, the immature me is like, yeah, PlayStation. But at the same token, it's so strange and it doesn't make any sense from just a consumer perspective.
Yeah, because so many people post clips. Like, I mean, granted, they're usually only like a minute to 3 minute clips that people are posting, but how are you going to catch everything you do? Like, I'll take a hour long clip from Apex and then go back through and find what I want to find and clip it down. Although maybe
Well,
the
they have
professionals
professional
don't have that
editors,
much problem.
right?
Well, not just that, but who needs an hour clip to get a clip when you're
Uh,
good at the game?
But then
it's
they
not
also have
just
like
that.
moderators in their
I'm trash.
streams to like pull
Yeah,
clips
you're
out.
talking competitive
True.
level people. There are definitely widely popular, both streamers and YouTubers that aren't the best of the best, and and
Yeah.
even outside of that, even if they were or weren't some of the best, if you're not playing a PvP game, it's kind of like, well, are you winning, son? It's like, as long as you're making progress, what's the problem? Tangent aside, so we talked
Yeah.
about Xbox a couple of times because it's just baffling. PlayStation 5 is obviously a great setup. I think I'm. Oh, one last thing about those two consoles. When recording on the PlayStation, we have to be mindful to press mute on our controllers so that it doesn't pick up the gameplay and us
Yes.
going, God! Mm.
When we first started doing our reviews, I had my clips because I think my first
Yeah.
review was what,
I think
Genshin?
so.
And you would hear because I was clicking the buttons so hard and so fast. I was like, oh no, I gotta record all of that over again. Which thank God, Genshin is
Hmm.
one of those games you can do that in. But if it was like, say, the Immortals of Avium, if I missed any of that, I can't go back and play it. I mean, I can, but that's going to be many, many hours of me
That's why you
replaying.
have to
So,
have like
That's
30 save
actually
files.
no.
that's true. But that's actually
So I
something that
do.
the Xbox does that it doesn't allow you to voice record your party unless you specifically pick it or you're in a group chat. But
Oh
if you're
yeah.
just playing by
Hmm.
yourself, it doesn't matter what you clip, it will not record your voice.
Whoa. Okay. So that was two different bombshells. So the first one, you're saying you need permission from other people, and I think PlayStation has similar controls. Like you can set it up so no one can
PlayStation is the
like
same. Yeah,
record
you
you
need
on
permission.
accident
Mhm.
or on purpose, but
Mm-hmm.
it absolutely records your voice if you're by yourself. So you're saying that when you clip, regardless of your mute
Mhm.
setting, like it's not a setting, is my question.
Yeah, it doesn't. It used to allow you to do it, and it was a while ago. But in the last, I'll just use the last 2 years, you cannot record your voice unless you have an extra audio cord into your capture card.
I should get a shovel and put a little X
Xbox
sticker
seems
on
to
the
be going
shovel every time we
backwards.
talk about stuff like this. There we go. Tim in the Xbox grave.
Oh my god.
Uh, you know that it is wild,
It
especially
just seems
given our
so
last
wild.
podcast. We talked a little bit about how um, Xbox, some executive reportedly was saying that if they didn't make enough sales, they were going to stop producing the Xbox. Sales in the subscription model, not the actual like Xboxes. And I don't know if that's actually true, but all of this seems like upper management at some level wants out of the gaming industry in terms of Xbox or Microsoft, or that's kind of how it vibes here.
I can say, starting with the Xbox 360 and on, Xbox was more geared towards home
Hmm.
entertainment. So I
Mm.
can see them not really caring as far as side things with games, that it doesn't really pertain to them entertainment wise. But again, it's counterintuitive to the sense of you want people to use your systems and promote it by doing that. Because most people, when they do stream, the first thing
Mm.
people ask is, "Oh, what are you
Yep.
streaming on?" Obviously, PC Master Race
Mhm.
comes out of like the woodwork,
Yes, it's.
but
Oh,
then you
sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah.
no, you're good. And then it follows up with the old school battle of PlayStation versus Xbox, and these little things are sometimes what causes people to choose.
Well,
There's no battle over that
you
anymore. We
mentioned
all know
something.
I
PlayStation
will
is
stand
superior.
on this grave.
I'm watching the water come up and my ship is going down.
Tap my nose.
So, you mentioned something that got me thinking a little bit. I realized that I personally used to YouTube like tutorials on whatever game. Say Disgaea, I did a lot of tutorials, and Minecraft for that matter. And I would purposefully, very purposefully, type in PS5 name of the game because I wanted to make sure that the platform
Yeah.
had, because they do make subtle differences in a lot of games between the platforms to kind of
Hmm.
incentivize that user base. So you're absolutely right from the war between the consoles, but also legit the games are sometimes actually different across consoles. So you would want yours to be nice for everybody. All right, so we spoke about PlayStation, Xbox, PC. So let's talk a little bit about Switch. I don't think any of us have done much, if any, recording on Switch. But according to Google, you can. Do you have a Switch handy? We can show people. I'll describe it so anyone listening can understand. But basically, on your Switch, you have a left controller and a right controller. And the left controller has, instead of the home button, which is on the bottom right of the home, right controller, the bottom left controller has a similar looking button that I had no idea what it did. And apparently, that's the button you click to record. We also found out, according to Google, that it records 30 seconds at a pop. No more, no less, just
Yeah.
30 seconds. So obviously, when we talk about console wars, we don't bring up Nintendo in a competitive fashion. We just bring it up because they've been there forever and they will continue to be there because they are the family platform.
Well, I mean, I Googled and I looked up how can you
Yeah.
capture more than 30 seconds on the Switch? And it says to do that, all you have to do is hold the capture button every 25 seconds and then use a video editor to stick the fragments
What's
together into a longer recording. So it's
Wait, they say hold
doable.
it? That's
Every 25 seconds.
Okay, so that the
Every
video
25 seconds.
overlaps and you still have to splice
That's
it.
Right.
literally
Yeah.
like trying to edit like film like back in the day where you had to literally chop sections and then put it
See,
together.
Joe's over here going, first time? What? 120 clips.
Like
Oh, why don't we just double it? It's not that bad. 240.
Oh
No
my
biggie.
god.
torture.
Although, to be fair, uh, I feel like the solution to most of the console issues, if you're going to do serious streaming as opposed to recording, completely different beast, obviously. But we haven't talked much about capture cards. I personally don't use capture cards because I'm always either transporting. Man, it really is a tough day for me. Transporting between my PlayStation on a thumb drive to computer, or I'm recording directly on the computer. But you two have used capture cards. Enlighten me.
Yes. No. It is the biggest nightmare I have ever had to deal with. Like when you talk about issues, oh my gosh. You can log in at 5 o'clock at night, okay? Perfectly fine. Everything works. You're good to go. You log out and you're like, well, no, I got to do something else real quick. 6 o'clock now. Everything is broken. Everything. I don't know what happens every time I try to use my capture card, but something breaks, whether it's the audio or maybe for some reason my game's not showing up or just you name it. I've experienced it with the capture card, but you get really clean quality captures when it does work and you get to record your face if that's what you want to do.
Okay, so
Eh.
the way that I could best explain it to most people, and I explained it to a friend of mine who I was helping get into streaming, is that a capture card is a good foot in the
Mhm.
door. Because most people, and this is again bringing up PCs, is that they can't afford a true straight up gaming rig. That on average, on the low end, is I would say $1,200 to $2,000, and that's the
Yeah.
bottom end. So for somebody who's just starting out or trying to get into streaming or content creation, a capture card is a good way to do it without destroying your PC or transferring things one at a time over and over and over. It's the easiest way to do it. But the quality is a flip of a coin, like Crystal was just saying, because so many things can go wrong. I mean, we had one of our company streams where I streamed for over an hour, and then when I went back to check the clip, there was absolutely no audio.
And that's no audio
And I
from
wanted
you
to like
or the
hit,
game. Yeah.
yeah, or it'll have your voice audio because you're using a mic, but it will not have game audio. So it just seems like you're talking to yourself for a solid hour.
And this is definitely,
And again, unless you're a radio host or disc jockey talking for an hour straight, it's not easy.
yeah, for sure. The what I was gonna say there, I got excited. Sorry, was I've seen it happen to pro level streamers too. People who make their sole income on streaming.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, just name a famous person, and you can find a clip of them going, "Wait, you guys can't hear me?" Like it happens to everybody across the board because computers are very
Ew.
illogical, emotional things. What?
Yeah.
So speaking of capture cards, do both? What capture card companies can someone choose from? The only name I know is probably the one that I know Crystal has.
There's quite a few, and then there's just generic brands. Think of like a car companies as a whole. There's your high brand, and then there's your casual. Just I need to get from point A to
Mm-hmm.
point B. And again, it's that flip of a coin where do you want to give up on money or suffer with
Yeah.
quality? So you can find different midpoints or entry points and figure it out and make it work. It just depends on what you really, really want for your stuff.
Yeah. Crystal, I know. Well, Joe's probably just trying to not get us sued, so that's good. But I know that you have historically used a company called Elgato, I believe is the name.
I had to
It's
look.
funny you
Yes,
had
you
to
are
look because
correct.
I distinctly recall you raging, and that's the only reason I know the name.
Well, I mean, maybe I
What
blacked it
about
out.
some
I
of
don't
your
know.
streamer friends? I won't name one because we have to talk to her first, but I'm thinking of a lady in particular who,
Well,
do you know if she uses the same thing or different?
every single
Yeah.
person I know uses the same thing. Yeah. We've all basically probably seen the same 2, 3 videos on YouTube on how to set up your streaming stuff. And um, I just went with the thing that I knew was widely known and easier to use because
I
it was
don't
so
know if you
widely
guys can
known.
clearly see this, that what I'm
It looks
holding
like a
up,
thumb drive, but we can't read the label on it.
which is probably a good thing. Okay, so this is actually a capture card.
Oh, it's interesting.
So this is how simple a capture card can get. And again, for those that are just listening, it is like my brother said, the size of a thumb drive, and you literally hook in your HDMI cable here, and then you hook it into your USB drive on your PC. So if you wanted to stream with, say, a Switch, this is a perfect, again, entry
Yep.
point where you just hook the normal HDMI that you put into your TV into this. You can also use this for video.
Hmm.
So it'll give you a different quality if you can run it through your HDMI, obviously, compared to a USB, because your HDMI is meant for your visual.
Now, which
This
one
is a
is
video
that?
capture card, but it does multiple things, which is why I mentioned the camera, which is the
Yeah.
purpose of why I bought it. But again, you can use it for base streaming. Where
But if I were to
She's
try to
like,
look that
I'm
up,
going to
what would
force
I
you to
look it up
say
as?
this.
well, this company is called Vivitar, and again, they're the Hyundai of
Hey, we
capture
own a
cards.
Hyundai, so there's nothing
Mm-hmm.
wrong with that.
Honda, Hyundai, whatever you want to like, whatever brand
Ah,
you want to call it. But again, it's a good entry
Yeah.
point. You can get them at
yeah.
Walmart. If you look at
The only reason why I'm making you say it
She
is
said,
because
I'm
we
not
already
going
said
down alone.
Elgato.
like if I said
At
something, you're
this
saying it.
point, if somebody wants to know, like, oh, hey, cool, I can get a cheaper version of streaming,
These
what
start
is it?
off at I believe $20. And again, if you go
Oh,
on
wow.
Amazon, there's
Yeah,
there's
that's real good.
anywhere I would say as low as $15. And then for the higher end capture cards, you're in the $300-$400
I
range.
work in tech, so I have to throw out a disclaimer. Do not buy a brand that you cannot find information on the internet. It will probably have spyware if it costs like
Mhm.
$5 and everything else in the industry costs at least 20. Don't do it. You're compromising computer tech, your computer safety. Disclaimer out of the way. I am still surprised to hear that like you can walk into Walmart and for $20 get this type of thing, because I was always under the assumption, especially if you just Google it, you're gonna see the $50 to $100 thing right off the bat from the major brands. So I just presumed that that was the market range.
Yeah, I think my Elgato was like
Yeah, I
150,
think we have the same one. It's
somewhere in that
the
range.
60 plus. That's
Yeah.
their. I don't even think they make it anymore.
And that's their low end then.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay.
So I mean that tells you. And again, it technology changes. So a lot of the times it's not that they don't make it because it didn't make them any money. It's that I don't think it. They don't think it is going to do anything for the current gen of
Mm-hmm.
gaming because it can't handle the video quality of whatever the current gen
Yeah.
is.
And with manufacturing,
Because
I know with some companies, especially bigger companies, it costs almost the same amount of money to manufacture a newer, quote, better model. So it's kind of a 50-50 between, well, we could sell discounted stuff, but if we're going to be bulk ordering to produce what we're going to produce, it's hard to market, hey, this one costs $5 less than the other one, but it costs us the same amount to manufacture. The profit margin for how many people are going to just pay a little bit more to get the better one, it doesn't make sense to keep manufacturing the not as good one if it's so similar in power, but
Mm.
the cost is almost the same. Uh, anyway, tangent aside, again, let's move on to we're up on time here. So do you guys want to tackle the effect on the gaming industry that other media has, movies, books, television, etc., and vice versa, anime, all that? Or do you want to tackle something else and save that one for our next podcast?
I think we should save it because that I think is going to be a rabbit hole of a
Yeah.
conversation. Which this one was a bigger rabbit hole
Mm-hmm.
than I thought it was going to be, but in a good
Yeah.
way.
It's interesting because there's a lot that goes into a simple question. If you're trying to look at it from, well, okay, how do you record on your console? I feel like the discussion we just had is very realistically the discussion I would have had with any of my other friends.
We forgot
Which
one.
one?
Mobile.
Oh.
I take mobile recordings all the time of my Epic 7 game that I play. A little too much. Um, but I will say
Yeah.
it does better than
You
Xbox.
do the typical screen record, or what do you do? Okay.
Yeah,
So we use
screen
iPhones.
record.
So the screen record, I'm assuming, works basically the same on Android, but I don't have an Android phone to confirm. So
Hmm.
someone else leave it in the comments or something. I don't
Please.
use Android phones only because
I know there's actually a way to hook it into a
Oh, you know,
capture card, but I know it's probably 100 times more
hmm,
complicated.
could you?
well, I don't know because I see a lot of people who do stuff like that. Although they have i or Mac computers, so they're probably doing some kind of remote
You
iPhone
mentioned
things. I don't know.
iPhone and it, like mobile games, right? So mobile games, there's another way to record
Mm-hmm.
them that I've done, and it's the same thing as how you play them. So you can use something like BlueStacks, which is an emulator. You just get an emulator, put it on your computer where the light shines, and then
That's cheating.
because you have it on an emulator on a computer, you just record using OBS, but it's not mobile. So
But and it'll be
Well, I
grainy
got one for both of you
a lot of times.
that I've actually seen on TikTok, and it's actually pretty common
Uh-oh.
considering where people use mirrors.
yeah, there's a YouTuber.
I'm serious. Look it up.
Yeah.
They have their video on them, and then there's a mirror of some sort, like within frame, pointed at whatever screen they're using, and that's how they record their
Oh, that's
stream.
not what I thought you were saying.
That's why I brought it up because I was like, the first time I saw it, I was like, are they using a mirror?
I'm gonna have to watch a video of
It's a
that
thing.
because when I looked it up, it
Oh,
brought me
okay.
to
Yeah, because
weird
that's
That
like
stuff.
no,
how your
Like
dating profiles used to be, right? You just point your camera at a mirror
no.
back in the day. So apparently they were like, well, I can just do this for my stream. Are you?
yeah, and they do it on TikTok a lot, which is weird because if you have enough of a following that you can go live, I think you have to have a minimum of 1,000
Hmm.
followers to go live. So in
Oh.
my mind, if you have that big of a following, again, I'm probably way off base, but my brain computes that you are at least at the level that you could afford some form of streaming setup.
I mean, 1,000
Yeah,
followers is
well, the
not
other
really
issue
that
too
much.
with
Pardon me.
TikTok, right, is let's say you had 10,000 followers. It doesn't mean you're making
Mm-hmm.
money. It's not YouTube where you
That's
make
true.
ad revenue or whatever.
Also, you got to think of the fact that when you're scrolling TikTok, how often do you see people live and just go,
Yeah.
I don't care about that.
Well, it was
No,
probably
thank
a bougie moment of my brain, but
Bougie.
I
I think
just it.
TikTok is the
What I
opposite of
think it
bougie,
is,
just for the record.
what I think it is
you.
that it's people that have a following from something else, and then they've gotten so many
Oh yeah.
requests to stream something that they don't want to be bothered with going through the whole setup of a capture card or whatever it is. So they say, okay, well, I do play games, but I don't take it that
Yeah.
serious. I mean, it's the lazy way out of it, but I mean, if it works,
Well,
by all means.
if we want to get
It's a cheap
technical, you
way
could
out of
just
it
become
too.
a professional gamer and then people watch TV and the TV cameras are aimed at you. Like all you got to do is be famous. It's not that big a deal.
Uh, I forgot.
Yeah,
Again,
what
my
are you
brain was being
doing?
bougie. I'm sorry.
Okay. Next time, we're going to talk about the impact of mass media towards the games and games that affect mass media, especially lately. There's several we want to talk about.
Hmm.
Crystal, this is yours, so take us away.
Thank you again for joining us with
Clip it and chip it.
We got her on. We got her on the back end. Usually we get each other on the front
Yeah,
end.
yeah.
Oh
We
my
got
god.
her on the
She
back
had it
end.
in the first half, not going to lie.
It was
Ah.
there. She had it.
Oh, this has been episode 10 with Maverick, JoJo, and
Later.
All right.
Crystal.